Good evening and welcome to the Fredonia Central School District Board of Education meeting for March 10th, 2020. We start every meeting with a pledge to the flag, so if everyone would please rise. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual or group. Concerns or comments during this session should be directly related to items listed on the proposed agenda for this meeting. Audience members seeking response should complete a board correspondence sheet and return it to our district clerk, Christine Slagle, here at the end of the desk. Is there anyone who would like to address the board at this time concerning anything that's on our agenda for tonight? No? Okay, we will close that out. We need to bring to the floor the consent agenda. Adoption of the consent agenda upon a motion and a second and affirmative vote by members present approves each and every item so designated. However, prior to the adoption of the consent agenda, any board member may remove any item from the consent agenda. This item will then come up for discussion as part of the regular agenda. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite routine matters so that the board has more time to deal with substantive matters. If I could have a motion to at least bring that to the floor for discussion. Mr. Hawk, and a second. Mr. Johnson. Anyone want to pull anything out of the consent agenda? Nothing. Is a matter, Ms. Slagle, under new business, under H1 for the middle school quest. There is an item of student leaders. I am not going to pull that out, but I will abstain from Miss Gabrielle Aldrich.
Yes.
From the vote on her and her only specifically.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If there is nothing else, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we have an agenda, which takes us to our special presentations. We have, let me get this straight. I'm just guessing, Sean Wright.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Victoria and Kaylee. I'm not gonna say last names, but McDermott, that's easy.
You don't want to try? I still haven't figured it out.
But they are presenting our long-term facility planning and capital project outlay from Young and Wright Architectural.
Well, we wanted to take a chance to come out and meet everyone since we've been brought on back in the latter part of 2019. And we were interviewed and hired in order to start off by performing your building condition survey, your 5-year building condition survey, and then to assist the district in developing a long-term plan moving forward. The state has kind of changed their rules with the building condition survey as of 2020, and they've taken a new approach, which the goal is to not overwhelm the state education department with every school district in New York State giving them their building condition surveys in the same 5 years, and which results in long-term plans that follow the same process. Everybody decides to do projects in the same period. So what they've done is they've taken that and divided it up into 5 years. And from my understanding, Fredonia Central Schools falls into the 2023 year, which is still a couple of years off. So in the meantime, I brought Tori and Kaylee with me, and we're gonna walk you through a little bit of a process that we've started on your behalf just to help you bridge that distance between now and 2023, to kind of help you develop some of the ideas that we know you may already be thinking about, or that you know are things that you may need to consider when you go forward to do capital improvements in your district. And also we're trying to develop a plan for your upcoming capital outlay projects as well. So as Mr. Aldrich pointed out, those photographs there this is our team for Fredonia Central Schools. I'm Sean Wright, I'm the partner in charge at Young and Wright Architectural. Jory Weslick, Waleschek, has been acting as our project manager here. Kaylee McDermott is our project designer. And when the building condition survey does come back around in 2023, you'll most likely get a chance to meet Alyssa Catlin again, who is our building condition survey and fit specialist. Fit is the process that we use to do your building condition surveys. And she works with all the districts in Western New York that are going through this process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tori to tell you a little bit about what's coming next.
All right. Yeah, so as Sean mentioned, we typically use the BCS as a tool to develop a long-term plan with the district, but since you guys aren't scheduled to have that happen until 2023, we would like to work with Fredonia Central Schools to learn and evaluate the conditions that you already know about your buildings. So the best way to do this is to walk the facilities with your team and your staff and let them tell us firsthand the issues that they know about. So we started this process a couple weeks ago. We met with Mark from Buffalo Construction Consultants, John Forbes and Jeff here, and they told us the conditions and all the areas of concern that they know about. So from this information, we were able to develop some key areas, and Kaylee's going to tell you about that.
Some key issues right now that we found highlighted in the Main Street campus include some HVAC upgrades that needed for the pool, some renovations of the gym, elementary school, lighting and refinishing of the floors, carpeting in classrooms, locker room renovations, as well as creating a library setting that's 21st century. And then as we transition to the elementary school, the issues here include exterior paving of the lot, various floor replacements, renovation of the activity room, which includes lighting and floors, and also creating a secure entry for the school. And then when we transition to the Orange Bowl, this has a few ADA accessibility issues, as well as drainage and fencing replacement.
So now that we have all this information, we will continue to work with your teams to let them tell us about other scope items that come up, and we'll be able to prioritize all of these issues that are on the table right now. And we can bring in our engineers and mechanical, electrical, structural, landscape engineers to further analyze the issues that you have, so that we can really start prioritizing the scope items. And we'll also work with BCC to add costs to these scope items, so that way we can start building a long-term plan for you. So as you're planning for your next capital project with your budget and timeline, we can look at the priorities and figure out what scope items should be part of those capital projects. And we can also start looking at the long-term plan as far as capital outlays. Some scope items make sense to attack with capital outlays, single trade scope items such as classroom, ceiling replacements, flooring replacements, masonry repair. Those are great projects to do with a $100,000 budget, so you can start chipping away at those scopes. And then also help you out with those miscellaneous projects that come up with grants, Smart Schools Bond Act, that take a long time, but they really do help chip away at those scope items that we have.
So this is kind of a graphic view of what we talk about is setting up a long-term plan and basically looking out about 15 years or so and developing the ideas that you either want to pursue for educational purposes, or because your facilities are aging, or because we know things are coming out of warranty, or that they're going to need replacement. Whereas this one that you're looking at right here, and I know you really can't read the tiny little print there, but this is what the plan actually starts to look like as you start to put this data into it. So obviously we're not collecting some of the very specific items from the building condition survey, but we'll continue as we make our visits out here to the district to add things to the list and work with the committee here to make decisions on, well, when you say you want to replace this, what does that really mean? What are we looking at upgrading to this? Are we looking at changing to this? Are we looking to just replace it from exactly what it was to just a newer version of that? And then we can use, working with the construction management group, putting together numbers and helping that not only that, you're prioritizing the items that you need to do, but also where does that funding come from? Or when is it available next? So that you can pursue some of these things and develop a good long-term plan to move you into the future.
And before we close out here, we just wanted to give you an update on the current capital outlay project that's in production. This includes interior signage of the Main Street campus as well as a few exterior signage around the exterior. And this is currently, we're creating the construction documents and is to go to SED in spring and then into construction next spring. And then we just wanted to thank you all for allowing us to speak with you today and your time. Thank you.
Any questions for us or anything that we can help you with as we move into?
I just had a real quick question, because I know one of the issues that we had with the Orange Bowl, because of the age of the Orange Bowl, and if we had to get any improvements to the Orange Bowl, then we would be forced to do a lot of improvements to it in regards to become ADA compliant, right?
Mhm.
So what you mentioned there with the ADA compliant part of it, does that put us into a spot where we have to then make more renovations to it to make it even more ADA compliant? Does it make a domino effect happen?
Right. No, not necessarily. I think we'd want to look at it, see where all the issues are, to see what, how things can be resolved. But typically the rule of thumb is that, like for instance, if you go to replace the bleachers, well, then the new bleachers would have to be ADA compliant.
Right.
But if you didn't change the walkways and things to getting there, then no, you don't have to do those things. You're not forced to do everything. It is one of the things that comes out of the building condition survey. SED does like you to address ADA access issues when you're doing projects. But they also understand financial constraints don't always allow that. So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll kind of, they almost kind of make us make some promises in the future. Like, okay, well, we understand what you're doing here, but the next time you go to do work there, could you add this piece into it as a part of that so that you can handle these things so it doesn't become a burden on the project that, all of a sudden the ADA issues take over the whole project. So, and we do understand, that with the Orange Bowl, just the natural landscape of it, that those could be challenging. But we'll start by, addressing them and then working with SED to say, okay, how can we do this so that it doesn't, totally take away your ability to get anything done?
Okay.
That's the goal.
So, can I just tag on to that? What I'm hearing you say is that it doesn't have to be changed as an entire project. It can be done in segments.
Yes.
And with the segments, if there's something that would require to be ADA compliant, that's the direction we'd have to take, but the other pieces wouldn't be attached to that.
Correct.
Okay. So what about the rest of our facilities in the fields and ball fields and grounds?
From an ADA accessibility standpoint?
Yeah.
Very, very similar. And we've seen this in a lot of districts where, starting with things like, you're renovating a ball field, for instance, that's the primary goal, and, getting new fencing or lighting or whatever you might be doing in the project. You're not required to provide, say, an ADA accessible sidewalk all the way out to the field, but if the project allows and there's other site work involved in it, that's something that they may say, well, we'd like you to provide that if it's possible and within your budget. And, what I've always done with a lot of those things like that, if they start to extend beyond the budget, is you add them in as alternates. So that if the funds are there, if the bids are good on bid day, then maybe there's some of those things that you can add into the project. But no, if you were going to improve your sports fields, it's not required, at each level to take the whole package and make everything in there, ADA accessible in order to replace what you have in kind.
Okay, so then a second question to that topic, then will we be given alternatives as to how to try to comply as to small segments, because the majority of our community doesn't need that.
Correct.
Right. So, if we were to create some type of piece where there was accessibility for that ADA,
Mhm.
we would you be proposing that in some form?
Yeah, and that's what I'd say when we start to talk about ideas for something like that, we would want to take it right to SED, sit down with the people there and say, okay, here's the ideas that we're coming up with that can work within the budgets that they have and that meet the restraints that they have. What do you think? And on many cases, they can be very helpful because what I've learned even most recently working with Roseanne at SED is, they're working with every school district in New York State. You're not the only one that faces some of these challenges, and sometimes we may not be able to think of something that might be right in front of our face. But when we bring it to them and say, hey, we're trying to figure out how to do this economically and make this work for everybody, and then they'll go, oh yeah, we've had this happen 3 other places in the state. Let me show you what they did. And then they can be a great resource for helping us to make sure that you're addressing it fairly. So.
Just one last question.
Sure.
What is the timeline you see as to going through our whole facilities to have a complete understanding as to needs?
I think that with the lack of being able to go in and do the full building condition survey, I think that as far as one of the things we've talked about is obviously even when you do a full building condition survey, you're obviously not going to have the budget to go in and do everything, right? So if we can continue to have meetings and perform walkthroughs, as Tori was mentioning, with different individuals who have good knowledge of some of the existing conditions that like we don't want to wait for the building condition survey to fix this pothole, that type of thing. We can get in there and we can build an order of magnitude, and then adding the cost to it, help you develop projects now that fit your timeline for when you have funds available. Working with John to talk, to figure out when you have, debt services changing or a timeline that you say, we really think that ideally we would like to put a vote out by this particular time. This is the amount of funds we think will be available, and then we can help you align that, with an order of magnitude. So we're starting that process now, and I would say that it'll continue, and then working from the financial side when things can take place, then we can present to you some ideas that show, what I always like to show is that, this is, the most immediate needs, these are the things we really could use, these are the things we kind of want if the budget will allow, and if you can put them into different categories that way, then you can really look at it and see what you really need to address and how much it's going to cost.
Anything else? No? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to see everyone. We'll be in touch.
Great. Appreciate you coming down. Next up, we have a discussion of the Board of Education meeting schedule. And I think we had tentatively discussed having a meeting on April 7th, which is the first Tuesday of spring break. And we know that we need a meeting, I think it's prior to April 21st. By the 21st, we need to have a meeting to approve the BOCES budget. Yes, we need it by the end of the day on the 21st.
Yes.
End of stroke of midnight on the 21st.
Hopefully it concludes
So-
earlier than that.
But I don't think that we're gonna be ready on April 7th and the 14th. I just wanted to discuss with board members what your schedules would be as far as the 7th or the 14th.
14th, I'm out of town.
You're out of town.
I'm also out of town.
Yeah, we talked about that, didn't we?
No, we talked about what I have the morning of the 21st.
So we were going to have 3 different meetings in April. One on the 7th, which was part of spring break. You know, this combined 2-week break, it's just, it's creating havoc.
It's right here on the
We're
top of this file.
I think we're gonna be discussing that later too. Anyway, so we're proposing that we would have a meeting on the 7th, on the 21st, and that would be to also vote on the BOCES budget. And then on the 28th, we would have a budget forum prior to our board meeting, and then have a complete meeting on the 28th.
We did talk about that.
Am I correct? I am.
Yeah, you are, you're always correct, Mr. Elton. You're gonna be a little bit more correct in a second. We talked about seeing if we would have a quorum on the 7th, because we were concerned that we would, we knew a number of folks would be traveling.
Yes.
So that was going to be your first question, and it was available on the 7th. If we don't have a quorum, we were going to move the meeting from the 7th to the 21st to allow for the presentation of Fredonia's budget, and also to allow for the voting for the BOCES.
BOCES nominations and the BOCES budget.
Correct.
So the idea
So we're
was,
still we're not looking for a meeting on the 7th then?
We were concerned that we would not have enough
A
board
quorum.
members available.
But if we did, we will,
Because, yes.
yes. But
Even though our superintendent may not be available?
I'm available on the 7th. I'm not available on the 8th. We have Mr. Hawk and Mr. Are you covering that week?
I don't think so. I got a text out just to make sure. I know the 14th I'm not gonna be here, I just don't know when we're leaving.
Yeah, I plan on being on the 7th.
Okay, so we will plan for the 7th, the 21st, and the 28th.
And the 21st then is just a morning meeting
Well,
or?
let's talk this out a little further. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mrs. Gadsden.
No,
Because one of the things we talked about too is a proper timeline to talk about our budget.
Right.
And when we met at our agenda meeting, we were in a pretty compressed time schedule to really present the final budget for the board for that. Is that the public forum? Am I saying that correctly?
For the 20th.
which date?
I'm talking about the 21st.
So the 21st would be the date that we talked about voting on Fredonia's budget. We also separately need to vote on the BOCES budget and the nominations. However, we thought that the 7th would be too early to vote on Fredonia's budget. And thus we would meet on the 21st to vote on Fredonia's budget, and then the 28th is the budget forum.
Right.
Is that the
And-
required
and-
state one?
Yeah.
Or is that May?
Say that again, Mr. Ford?
There's
That's
the
the
required
required state.
state, so many days prior to the vote, is that the
21st.
28th?
The board needs to adopt the budget on the 21st, which is a nuance of state regulation, prior to the public forum.
What needs to be done on the 7th?
So then maybe nothing.
Nothing.
I
So we-
won't be available on the 7th. So
From the Fredonia budget standpoint, we're concerned that if there's any delay with the state approving their budget on the 1st, that we only have a matter of days to put together.
So once you have your state run from the 1st, if we don't have a meeting on the 7th, we will have one on the 21st, and that will be the first opportunity that we have as a full board to review your budget with the full state run.
Correct. The next meeting in March, we'll have as much as we can moving forward, but it won't be final.
That's correct.
So we would have to vote that same night.
Yeah.
After submitting for the first
Yeah.
time.
And we've had those scenarios before, and the plan at this point, and what you've asked for is different scenarios, different tax rates, if you will, and what that means, or what the impact is on our overall budget and our overall staffing requests. And again, we can meet on the 7th, the 7th, and give a preliminary, and meet again on the 21st, if that's the board's desire, assuming we have a quorum. or we can meet on the 21st, and I know Mr. Forbes has shared in the past that during those meetings, there's been a recess, and there's been asked, put some other things together, we want you to look at it this way and that way. This is a more volatile budget season than it has been in years past, at least in our time together. And that's our concern, particularly the way the market is right now. Even though I was in Albany just a week ago and meeting with our representatives, and they assured us that what the government proposed is not going to be what we end up with in a very positive fashion. It is unclear at this point, and more so than it typically is unclear, and that's because of the events that are going on around our world.
What date is the adoption of this budget according to the governors?
Well, we're supposed to have our final runs by April 1st. Supposed to. And we have in recent years. But you'll remember there were a whole bunch of years where April 1st came to an end.
Well, that's why I asked that. What's the deadline?
What did those districts do when that happened? When, you know what I mean? Like, how do you adopt a budget when you don't know what the state budget
That's a fantastic question.
is? Mr. Forrest, been around forever, so I should know.
We've done in the past where you take the governor's number and run with that, which is typically the lower amount that you get, or you try to make an educated guess and say, the last 3 years we got 100,000 more on the legislative side, so we put another 50 in there. So to kind of play it that way. Some districts have gone with what the legislative proposal is, even though that's not been approved, which sometimes can backfire on you too. So you're walking around with hand grenade that all the time.
Good thing we got a lot of corporate.
That's an Irish factor over there.
Jeff's doing his propaganda. He's trying to start
So our first run at the budget with state numbers, we're hoping for the 7th. And then give you feedback and be ready for the 21st, and we would be able to vote on it that night.
Yeah, the goal would be to be by the 7th, pretty much set depending on the number, and then we can adjust where we need to be from, from the board's perspective from that point.
And then vote on the 21st on the budget. Have the board vote.
I think it makes a lot of sense to add a meeting on the 21st. With the where we are in terms of the unknowns.
And if we're able to put together pretty much a complete look by the 7th, you'd have the 2 weeks to consider it, and you can have feedback back and forth.
Okay. We're fine on that. 7th, 21st, and 28th. Okay.
And we'll have a regular meeting on the 21st.
Yes.
We'll vote on that. You'll vote on the budget, the BOCES budget, and the nominations.
And the nominations. Yes. Okay. Busy month.
7th is still on, even though we might not have people.
So as the schedule is now, we already have April 7th on our listed schedule. So if we find out that we do not have a quorum, if folks need to find that out, if we do find that out, we can get rid of that meeting. We would just have to vote on a new schedule at our next meeting, at our next March meeting.
Okay.
So if we're able to find that out in that time, then we can, make those changes and then just have a meeting on the 21st and the 28th.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
So it sounds like Mr. Johnston is the only one who knows he's unavailable on the 7th.
Okay. We don't know about Ms. Fortner, but you gentlemen are available on the 7th. You'll find out.
I did find out, and it says the 18th to the 23rd is when we're gone for that 5 days.
So you're,
Okay.
and I think I am too.
So you're up here on the 15th?
I will be adjusting that.
Oh, that's right.
Well, we will still have you will be gone on the 21st?
No.
Oh, okay.
Will you be someplace where you have electronic?
Yeah, I could probably Skype or
Skype.
something like that.
I'm sure you'll want to be part of that.
That will be.
I'll arrange for that.
Yes, I would. Okay. Next, we have the administrator's report with the capital construction update. Mr. Certisio.
That's me. Okay, so we continue to, our project continues to move forward. If you haven't stopped up by the high school cafeteria, the trophy cases were installed this week. They look really sharp, and there's gonna be some tile work that's placed in that area as well in the next week or so. I did provide quite a bit of information to the board about change orders that are going to be presented to you this evening. The trophy cases are going to Mr. Aldridge. One thing I want to point out is there's actually a deduct change order, and that's a situation where I explained to you at our last meeting that in each contractor there's money called allowances, and when those allowances aren't used, the money comes back to the district, it comes back to our pool of funds. And the deduct in this case was for a roofing project. Depending on what we decide for the remainder of the project, there's a slight possibility of one additional deduct change order, and that's really contingent on whether we decide to replace the pool scoreboard. I also provided you a spreadsheet that has our spend down amount. And I think, if memory serves me correctly, it's $93,000. There's my copy. Thank you. So the spreadsheet, which was provided by our management group, lists the different construction costs based on contract. The pending change orders, many of which will be before you this evening to vote on. And then, some incidental costs and some other information there as well in terms of where we spent some money. We are under budget by $92,691, and we do have a decision on what to do with those funds. We don't have to spend them. We can look at our original list of other items that were under consideration. One of the other things that's a little bit different is we are working with our management group to determine whether we can use those funds to offset some of the budgetary requests that we have for next year. And we're not sure if we can do this yet, but for instance, if we have requests for flexible seating in certain areas or replacement of some of the broken devices in our weight room, are we allowed to purchase those out of the construction project? And so we first need to find out if we can, and then we'll have a discussion whether we will.
Would it be possible to put that 93,000 into a capital reserve?
I don't believe that it is.
I don't think so, because it's a public referendum, and you're gonna be borrowing funds, and I don't think we do that.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this piece to Brian's question.
Mhm.
We have $300 and some thousand that we're taking out of our reserves that if we don't use, would go back into our general fund, which then could be put into the reserves.
So you use less of a reserve.
Right.
And whatever you use less of the reserve, that will then remain in the capital reserve until such point in time that we.
Well, that reserve dissolves after so many years if it's not used for the
Right,
designated
you
project.
would be, you'd be looking at 10 years, 9 years.
That's a good,
So it could possibly be, I've seen you do some crafty things, John.
In a good way.
I didn't say
If we're
that.
able to do that, you can look at that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility, right?
Possibly.
I'm one person here on this board, but I don't wanna spend money just because we have it if we don't need it, and I wanna think about this appropriately and with a clear head rather than with a matchstick behind me.
I agree. I think my responsibility is to present all options to the board. And that's what I'm trying to do. So we don't, I'm open for this discussion this evening if anyone is interested. We are not in a position where we have to make this decision today.
So I've got in a normal sequence of questions.
Mhm.
You've got $93,000. We've got, after the change orders this evening, we have this additional piece here of 157 as a total.
Where are you looking?
This would be, there's no page numbers, it just says following change orders. This page right here.
For the first page.
This is the way I stapled them together, they don't have any numbers to the pages.
All right, I forgot to put page numbers.
Well, I'm just.
No, I'm thinking of myself, you're right. It wasn't the,
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't
Where
the
are we? Change order RF.
change order, RF. Here it comes. It could be the time when, the timeliness of when these documents were created as well. So RF one is the deduct.
Midway down the page,
Mm-hmm.
it says additionally, I'm working with our management team to determine the schedule and proposed remaining scope of the project.
Right.
And then it gives us a summary and projected cost to those different pieces.
And you've added those up and you come up with the 173, is that what?
157,
Okay.
and then there's still the $25,000 piece that's not added in for the heating.
So let me draw you back to the spreadsheet.
Yep.
And if you look under pending change orders, you have pool scoreboard replacement for $30,000 is listed there. You have right above that career center fin tube at $26,626. It's listed there. The benches for the dugout are included in the playground athletic in the classroom furniture, portable benches, appliances line down below under incentive costs. The diving board is included in the playground athletic equipment diving board and the line above it. Furniture, new spaces, again, is with classroom furniture, portable benches, and appliances. As I mentioned before, the pool scoreboard is listed there as well. Those components of the project are accounted for in the spreadsheet.
Okay, I'm not seeing the furniture piece.
Classroom furniture, it's under incidental costs. It's the third from the bottom.
Oh, okay.
It says classroom furniture, it really should say office furniture.
So then all these pieces, what I'm hearing, and the 25,000 for the heating repairs is included, leaving us with a 93,000.
Correct.
So what Mr. Aldridge proposed is pretty viable, very viable, as to the savings for the district.
Oh, I agree. The only part that I would like to continue to investigate is whether those funds can be utilized to offset some of the requests that we have for next year's budget. Because we need to remove some things from next year's budget in order to get to a palpable tax levy for our stakeholders.
Which was the point that I brought up with Mr. Forbes. If the unused portion of our reserves goes back into general fund, then that leaves a one-time cost is what you're presenting, right?
Essentially,
Okay, so that it is kind of,
we're in the same,
okay.
yeah, it's like the same ballpark for sure.
And so just to add on to the piece with the diving board and the scoreboard, at our last facilities meeting, we were going to discuss using those as a capital outlay project. That is not the case then.
Well, the problem with the diving board, including that in capital outlay project, is that is not what we proposed in terms of this capital outlay. We did discover that our diving board is not compliant.
Section 6.
And so it does need to be replaced. My concern is if we don't replace it, we would put our diving, the ability to do diving here in jeopardy. So the scoreboard, it does need to be replaced, it's getting to its end of life. The decision can be made whether we do that now or we do that at a later date.
So you are looking at doing all those pieces before the end of this capital project?
Yes.
Okay. So everything on here is all inclusive to our number?
Correct.
And that would be till June, correct? And not March?
And that leaves us time for our financial piece?
Yeah, we want to be wrapped up May.
We could get it to, first week of June or thereabouts, we just want to give enough time to make sure we got everything correctly done on the report.
May.
Well,
We're not messing around with our final cost.
If you don't do it, just to remind the board again, if you're not under requirement to have it done by June, if we don't have it done by June, it's just gonna change the timing of the aid payments that we have established right now in the budget process. So it's not like, oh my gosh, kind of date, but that'll be the preference of each of them.
it becomes part of next year's budget.
It already is, but it'll change what the number is if you don't do it in June. You won't receive the aid actually in June, but it becomes something that you can accrue against the current year and book it there and transfer it that way.
Okay.
And not the architect, but the, how we talked about having the person on site for extended period of time, I think actually mentioned in that site.
Management, BCC.
Do they have to stay on that longer to get the cool stuff done?
No, they don't. The arrangement I have with them is that once the major part of this project, which is our life skills room, is completed, that they'll work on an as needed basis. So if I got something coming in that I'd like some review on, they'll do that. They'll do that for us. But the other parts of the project, say the pool scoreboard, we can oversee that work ourselves. My only concern with something like the diving board is you're removing something from the tile surface that's in a wet, humid area. And I don't know that I would bring BCC back to that, but I would definitely want someone with a lot more expertise than I have to take a look at that and make sure that the foundation is what we need it to be.
Sure.
So the rest of these items are things that I think that between Randy and Mr. Forbes and our facilities committee, we can oversee pretty well.
So to that piece that you just scenario, as far as the foundation and the connection to the diving board, wouldn't that be Young and Right now?
I would absolutely utilize Young and Right as much as possible in everything going forward.
Okay, so then, one of the red flags for me was the management company's expense, beyond the point where they were supposed to end. So, do you see this going much further? Because I see them in this piece here as billing that total amount. Do you think that we'll be seeing a negative change order?
I anticipate we will.
Okay. So that will be on top of the 93,000?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, and then the other trades finishing as we discussed this afternoon.
Yeah, I did look into whether we would expect any deduct change orders from the other trades, and the only one that we may is from our electrician, Beck Electric, and that's contingent on what we do with the full school board.
Anything else?
That was on his,
That was on
that was
the
just
capital
an update.
construction
Okay.
update. Yes.
Yep, good.
Okay. We have the minutes from the regular meeting of February 25th. We have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So,
Ms. Gagerstatz and Mr. Hawk, second. Any questions, comments, concerns, corrections, anything? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? We have the financial treasurer's report. We have several change orders. If I could have a motion to bring the first one to the floor, change order number GC 14 in the amount of $33,952.
Can I make a motion possibly to bring them all to the floor? Just because we have 10 of them, instead of reading through every single one, or do you read through every single one?
I'm going to ask that we do this separately, and I know that that's challenging, but just so that we have all of them and discuss all of them as appropriate.
Which I'm good with, because I've got a few questions on number 7.
Okay, so if I could just have a motion on number 1,
So moved.
Mr. Hawk, and a second,
I'll second.
Mr. Forrester, thank you. Mr. Certisio.
I can comment on each of these change orders again if you'd like. How about if I ask this, is there any questions about this particular change order?
Just one question, GC, it says number GC-14, and there's, on our support paperwork, there's 4 different vendors maybe that make up this cost. Is this all going to, who is GC?
That's general construction. You'll notice that the abbreviations they use aren't necessarily directly related to a single vendor, single contractor. And what I've noticed is when you've got multiple folks involved in a change order, it comes out as GC. So in this case, as I gave you the breakdown in the memo, E. Austin, Quaker Millwork, and Teed Zoller Tile are all part of this change order.
Okay. Are they working separately or under?
They're working under E. Austin.
Okay. So wouldn't this just be one? Does it need to be? Are we paying them separately? These 3 vendors?
No, it goes through E. Austin.
So wouldn't the change order need to be to them?
It is, if you look at the actual change order itself, it does say to contractor E.E. Austin.
And I gave you the breakdown,
Just for
just
reference.
so you know.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, thank you. We have, we need to bring to the floor change order EL6 in the amount of $3,497.43. Can I have a motion to bring that forward, please?
There's actually 2 amounts there. The total is $13,996.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
It's broken down because $10,498.59 is for new lights and data in the life skills room, whereas $3,497.43 is for new lights, to install lights in the new trophy cases.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to bring that forward, please?
So
Mr. Hawk, in a second.
Second.
Mr. Zambron. Any questions on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, thank you. We have a change order PL2 for $9,063. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please? Ms. Gegenstadt, and a second.
second.
Mr. Hawk, any questions on this?
What's the new work that they're performing? This is demo and new work.
This is, yeah, well, it's to remove the old plumbing because we had down all the room.
Yeah.
So there has been some reconfiguration of where the sinks are gone.
Okay.
It's really the crux of it. The washer and dryer will go back in the same place that they were, but the reconfiguration of the rooms requires some differences in the plumbing.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We have change order GC16 in the amount of $34,195. Can I have a?
Actually, 15%.
I did. Correct, thank you. Change order GC15 in the amount of $6,435. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Mr. Canberra. And a second, Mr. Forrester. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Now we have GC16 in the amount of $34,195. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor?
So moved.
Mr. Hawk, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Gagnon Schatz. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? We have change order GC 17 in the amount of $20,236. We have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So
Mr. Johnston and Mr. Hawk. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? We have change order GC 18 for several different amounts, $9,761, $4,193, and $10,671. May I have a motion to bring that to the floor?
So moved.
Mr. Hawk, and a second, Mr. Forrester. Any questions on that?
yes. So this is marked GC 18. And on our paperwork, we have EEA 15 and
GC 18,
you know,
you're looking at the top paragraph.
okay, but there's three amounts on here. Oh, I think there's GC 18. Oh, no, it says GC 18 down here also. It seems like we're passing GC 18, but there's other ones involved here.
Yeah, what I did there is that the elementary wall pad replacement was broken into two different change orders. So I wanted to reflect in that paragraph, that fact. And because the way the paperwork flows, we had one change order and then the second one came in with other items. Similar to our conversation earlier about the GC, the general contracting change orders versus ones that are specific for the contract.
Okay, so my question is, are we passing this as a properly worded resolution?
I believe you are, based on the number of wall pads that are reflected in GC 18 and the number of wall pads that are reflected in EEA 15, it gives us the total that we agreed to.
Okay, because there's landscape boulders that are included in this.
That's correct.
Okay, so
So again,
it
this,
it's a little confusing with the support paperwork because it shows it as three different change orders. And then it has it listed as only the one change order for the smaller amount.
I see what you're saying. My apologies.
That's why I asked if it's worded correctly.
The wording on the board agenda is definitely correct. And that wording comes from, working right from the legal documents. And we have to list, or we do list the items that are put in that change order.
Gotcha.
If there's any confusion, it's in the way that I tried to further explain.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? We have change order GC 19 for $34,522. May I have a motion to bring that to the floor?
So moved.
Mr. Forrester, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Johnson. Any questions on that?
I do want to point out that there is an error in the way this change order is on the agenda, but it is not Ms. Sladle's error because she copied exactly as she was supposed to from the legal documents. While they say home and careers caseworking kind, this is life skills caseworking kind. We're not doing any additional work in the home and careers room. This is reflective of the casework for the life skills classroom.
Okay, so noted, note that as a, typo.
It'll be reflected in the minutes.
Thank you.
It's life skills.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Change order GC 20 in the amount of $32,385. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor?
So moved.
Ms. Gagnon Schatz, in a second. Forrester. Any questions on that? This is also the life skills one. Okay.
And I just remind you too, I did provide you a summary on the last page of the document, just spelling out where the funds were going for the life skills room. General construction, meaning demo and other work they need to do in there, is what's before you right now.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed. Our final change order, RF1, which is a deduction of $36,291. Can I have a motion to bring that forward?
So,
Mr. Hawk, in a second.
So,
Ms. Gagin.
second, sorry.
Ms. Gagenschatz, thank you. Any questions on that? Just for work not being done. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. We have, in new business, we have items pertaining to the budget vote and a legal notice that will be presented for our budget. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Ms. Gagenschatz, and a second?
second.
Mr. Johnson. Any questions on this? This is, probably almost identical to what is done every year. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Need to bring to the floor the approval of petitions for Board of Education seats as presented. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Mr. Hawk, and a second?
Second.
Mr. Forrester. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have, 4 seats for the, BOCES, seats, for nominations. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
B,
B1.
budget
Resolution
resolution.
of partnership with the board.
I thought you just did that. Thank you.
Petitions from board.
Thank you very much. Yes, I need a motion to bring the resolution for the BOCES election, Board of Education vote. I have a
So
motion for that. Ms. Gagenschatz, any second?
Second.
Mr. Hawk, any questions on that? I'm getting ahead of myself. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Thank you. So we've got 4 spots for the, for BOCES to nominate. If I can have a motion to at least bring that to the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Mr. Forrester, in a second.
Second.
Mr. Hawk, thank you. We have 2 letters, and I'm not gonna be able to find them here right now. Yes, Mr. Lowry and,
Says Schnoz.
yes, have sent us letters asking us for their nomination. Any thoughts on this? I always have a difficult time with this in that I appreciate the work that these people do, however, I don't know them very well. You've probably interacted with them a little bit more than what I have. but-
I don't know Mr. Lowry, but I do know Ms. Schnoz. She's a very good advocate, hard worker,
I think they,
nice person, so I wouldn't have a problem nominating her.
yeah. We have are, already
I think Tom Joe is one of them, that worked with him as well.
correct, but they're all incumbents.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not questioning any of their work, and I appreciate their involvement in this. Anyone have any other thoughts? You don't wanna do it, Mr. Hahn?
No, I'm,
No?
I think I agree with what you're saying. We run into this piece every year in regards to really not knowing these people individually, but yet, most of the time they're incumbents.
Yeah.
So, having not heard anything in a negative fashion, looking at the one's resumes, the Lowry, knowing the Snars, they seem like good applicants. And it doesn't seem like we're peppered with a bunch of others.
It would be refreshing to see some other people throwing a hat in the ring, so to speak. And
Are
instead
you
of
offering?
continuing to have the same people run, I didn't say that. But that would be very nice if,
Again, I appreciate the work that they've done.
though they're excellent, they do a nice job, but however, it would be, like I said, it would be nice to have some new people at least make an attempt.
Any thoughts? Any other thoughts? If I ask for a motion to nominate the 4 incumbents, would anyone be willing to bring, you would be fine with that?
Yeah.
Could I get a second on that,
Second.
Mr. Hawk? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Good, thank you very much. That's, again, what they do, I appreciate what they do very much. That is it. From there. Okay. To administrative. You ready? Okay. We have administrators report and ESSA accountability. Ms. Pike?
Mr. Veda.
And Ms.
Piper, and Ms. Kaufman.
It's a trifecta of this one. We kind of wanted to give you an idea of ESSA, how we got to where we're at, our current accountability status, and the next step that we're going to do today. So with that being said, ESSA, this is something we've been talking about for the last couple of years. This is the Every Student Succeeds Act. New York State applied to the federal government. It took them 2 years before they got its plan in place. And essentially, New York State created an accountability system that it's going to be using to evaluate schools and school districts. New York State decided that they were going to use a multiple number of measures to do that. They were going to, for elementary and middle schools, to look at the core subject areas, ELA, math, science, progress in learning English for those students who use English as an additional language, problems and chronic absenteeism.
Mr. Veda, could you back up one slide, please? Okay. ESSA is a federal plan, correct?
Correct.
And if New York State did not buy into the federal plan, they would lose $1.6 billion in aid. from the
Correct.
federal government.
And that money went to every school district across the state.
And part of ESSA is an accountability plan, so to speak. And that is where our 3 through 8 state assessments came from. Okay. Federal government, states you want money, you come up with regular testing, correct?
Correct.
So $1.6 billion, New York State says, all right, we're in, because we want our constituents to have the funds as well. Here's how we're going to meet your requirements. So we're not only responsible to New York State, we're also responsible to the federal government.
The federal government. And our slice of that 1.6 billion is about $370,000.
Significant. Thank you.
You slowed me down, I just want to go on the record.
I know I did.
I was going fast. You slowed me down.
I'm going to remind everyone.
I was told.
You had
Keep it fast.
45
Keep it
slides
fast.
before I got to that.
Oh.
Back here down the left.
So here we're looking at the way that Mr. Sortisio talked about this is we are looking at 3 through 8 ELA and math assessments. We're looking at grade 4 and grade 8 science assessment. We're looking at the English as second language achievement tests, the NICESLOT tests, the alternative assessments for our special education students, and our student absentee records. For the high school, we are looking specifically at Regents exams. In addition, we're looking at social studies, graduation rates, 4, 5, 6-year graduation rates, college career civic readiness index, the number of students that are taking advanced coursework, the number of students going to 2-year schools, going to 4-year schools, out-of-school suspension rates. A lot of this was brand new data that we are looking at. So the accountability definitions, essentially, schools and districts earn a score for how all of their students perform, and then scores for all of the subgroups within a school. You are either, as a district of good standing, or a target district. If you're a district in good standing, it means that every one of your schools, in our case, we have 4, all 4 schools would be in good standing as well. It's either one or the other. If you're a target district, it means that one of your schools has been identified because one of their subgroups has not made adequate, has not made its accountability progress. There are 2 different ways that schools can be identified. You could be a comprehensive support and improvement school or a targeted support and improvement school. The difference is that comprehensive support schools, that happens when all of their students do not meet the accountability standards. We don't have those schools like that around here. The targeted support and improvement schools, that's when one of those subgroups. And what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is what happened in the last year. Last year, 2018-19, our accountability status for the district, we were a district in good standing because all of our buildings were in good standing. This year, the accountability status just came out. We are currently a target district, meaning that one of our schools is a targeted support and improvement school. And that's our middle school. Elementary school, high school, both in good standing. Essentially what it means is that the state took a look at all of our subgroups of students in grades 5 through 8. And as you can see, this isn't just one group of child. I mean, our students, in some cases, are 3 or 4 of those different categories. So we really didn't think that this was a problem that we had with one particular subgroup. This is a whole school issue, and that's how we're approaching this. It's a whole school problem that we need to take a look at.
I just have a quick question. Are those our actual subgroups or are those
Those are all the
available
those are all the subgroups that New York State will take a look at.
Okay. And we have whatever number of those?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The target school identification criteria is extensive. There are 6 different categories in which schools are really ranked. Composite performance, growth, and growth. ELP, which is English language proficiency, progress, and chronic absenteeism. If you fail to meet progress in any of those categories, that's when you're identified. Now, to give you an example of this, that first one, that target performance criteria, there are 12 steps to it. I'm giving you 2, and I just wanted to kind of give you a flavor of what we're really looking at. I pulled the information from one of our subgroups that the state did take a look at. And they took a look at how they performed in ELA and also how they performed in math. In ELA, we had a total of 51 students enrolled. 28 students actually took the exam. 19 of them received level 1, 5 a level 2, 1 a level 3, and 3 a level 4. If you're wondering, a level 1 students refer to students who are well below the expectation for performance on those standards. Level 2 is partially proficient on the standards. Level 3 is proficient, and level 4 is excel. Now I wanted to put the ELA and math up to one another, up back to back, so you can kind of see it's not simply an English problem or a math problem. If you take a look at this, it's both.
What grade level is this?
This is 5 through 8. One set subcategory in their middle school. But then when you actually take a look at the formula, this kind of opened all of our eyes, because when we look at the formula, it's 100 times all the students who receive a level 2, 2 times the number of students who receive a level 3, and 2.5 times the students who receive a level 4. You're not even looking at the level 1 children. And the goal really is to get those level 1 kids and to see them improve. The denominator, I'm going to need some help, math guy. The denominator here is a greater number of 2 points here. You take either the continuously enrolled students who have valid test scores, or if that's not the case, 95% of all of the continuously enrolled students in that category.
Well, I'm gonna digest that for a second. So continuously enrolled students
In that case,
who have valid test scores.
So that would be
the,
51 and 51.
you take the higher of the two numbers, either 95% of your total enrolled students, or all the kids who took the test,
Whichever is higher.
whichever is higher.
Okay, so in this case,
51.
the total enrolled, 95% of the total
95%.
enrolled would be higher.
Correct.
And what we have there, that the difference in that 51 to 28 are students or families who refuse to take the test.
Correct.
August 13 not tested, they didn't,
They didn't take the test, they
they didn't take
opted
the
out.
test at all,
They
they opted
refused to.
out.
They refuse to take it.
They refuse to take it.
So 95% of 51, so, right. So it hurts us if they don't take the test.
Which is the point. Now, in step number 7, they take the exact same and they look at the ELA math and science core subject index. And in this case, they take the same formula, only the denominator is they take the continuously enrolled students who actually have taken the test. So the state has recognized the fact that students are refusing to take the test. They're trying to build into the formulas a way in which we can get an accurate, I guess, measure of how well our students do. Ideally, we do want that true representation of how well our students are doing. It helps us to identify what is missing in our instruction and what we need to do to improve. I guess, if I'm saying anything, performance and participation matter for these tests.
So do we have any way to, maybe I missed this, understand where we stand with the test takers that we do? And then where we fall?
We're going to.
It's been something we've been addressing for the last several years.
Because, I mean, you got subgroups, which are really, what drives it. But yet we don't necessarily have that documentation. But yet we do have people that are taking the test. So are we taking that group and sending that information in?
All of the information is reported.
Okay.
What we have found in our district is our younger students are opting in and performing to their ability, much more so than our older students. It's a cultural change, it's a cultural shift for sure, and some of the changes that we've made at our middle level, going back 3 years ago now. But test refusal isn't an issue here, as it is in many districts. Okay? Certainly respect families' rights to make a decision. However, it has an impact, and that's what we're going to hear next on, because there is a significant amount of work that we have to do as a district. We have to continue to show improvement. We under ESSA, and you've heard this from me before, but not in a while, have to get to 95% of our students sitting for those assessments. That's a big jump for our district, as it is for some others. But we need to show progress, and we need to show that we're making effort towards those things. And I don't want to say too much more, because I don't want to steal Spike or Mrs. Stroughton's thunder, because we've got to allow you to share those.
So I believe it was last week, 2 weeks ago, Amy and Paula attended a mandatory workshop in Albany to talk about the next steps. And I'm going to turn that over to you.
So, and that's good to actually answer some of Mr. Hawks' questions about how do we determine what do we do next and how do we get better. So NICET actually has an intervention process, and Paul and I went and spent 2 days hearing about the process and how to create a school comprehensive education plan to improve those scores that you just saw from Mr. Rada. So we are in the process of creating a 3-year plan Right now, we are in the planning process, it's called. Paul and I have been chatting almost hourly, it seems like, trying to develop a planning process to get into place so we have a comprehensive education plan for the next 3 years. So we've been working with Mr. Rado, we met this morning, working on an FS10, which is a grant, which would support this process. And that is the funding that is provided by State Ed. They do give us some funding to help put the planning into place, but also to provide some professional development and what, not in the next 3 years. Next. So this is called our School Comprehensive Education Plan. So you'll hear us talk about the ESSEP a lot. In the next 3 years, our ESSEP plan. And that's what we're in the process of doing right now. The very first thing what they asked us to do at State Ed was to delegate a district lead and a district team to look at and interview some of our stakeholders. And so Mr. Sortisio has made me the lead of this project to work with Paula as the building lead. We have created a district team with Mr. Rada and Mrs. Farrow to take a look at this process. So the next step will be with Mrs. Troutman. She is working with her team to delegate teachers that would like to be involved in this process. This would include teachers, but it would also include parents and students. And I think that goes right to the question that you asked, Mr. Hawk. We will only be talking to students who take the test. We'll also be talking to students and families who decide to refuse the test and find out why and see what we can do to help with participation rates. I think that will be extremely valuable information for us to have. We will have a letter that will go home to all parents, so all of you getting a letter that will talk about this process and what will be happening. We'll actually have a school climate survey that will be given to our staff, non-instructional staff as well as teachers, to parents, to students, to find out what's happening in our schools, what is working for you instructionally, what are some things that you would like to see us improve. And we heard a lot about that while we were in Albany, and the importance of getting families involved and getting students involved and finding out what really they need to learn better. We'll also again hear from our teachers so they can guide us in building this school comprehensive education plan. So we'll do a survey that will go out, a school climate survey, and then Paula and I will work with the middle school and the team that's delegated to do a needs assessment. And we'll take a look at many different levels of needs. We'll look at assessment, we'll look at school climate, we'll look at culture, we'll look at relationships, we'll look at instruction. And we will take all of that information that we gathered from the survey, from all of those different subgroups, and we'll also look at the needs assessment that are done particularly by the middle school folks, the staff, the teachers, the students. And we will develop a plan that will drive the next 3 years called our School Comprehensive Education Plan that will look for improvement. We'll look for improvement in school achievement, we'll look at improvement in culture, we'll look at improvement in actually taking the test as well.
So one of the key components to support all this is dollars. And so, did I hear you say, Joe, that it's only $373,000 that we're allocated?
No, well, that's the total number of title money that we get. The state is providing to us additional funds that will support this work.
And this is, so what I see, and just kind of hear me out and amuse me, is $1.6 billion for the state to roll this out to less than 750 school districts, which is about $20 million per school district. I mean, I'm not asking.
That money is not
So-
for this.
Oh, okay,
That is all the title money.
okay.
That's not just for
Okay,
this.
so how much title money are we looking at not receiving?
For this project or for?
Because we're not completely involved 100% into the testing piece.
They don't take back any of our title funds,
Okay.
but they give us the title funds regardless, and that's,
Because I'm,
yeah.
and that's where I say amuse me,
Yeah.
because I didn't quite understand which you seem to, it just wasn't relayed to me.
There's other things that they could do if we don't make progress, if we don't comply with the requirements. You know, if you become a school in receivership, the state can come in and take over a building and decide who stays and who goes.
I mean, it's impressive to see that large number on your paperwork, I just don't know what, I mean, the number that really applies to us is what I wanna see.
so this is just in relation to the asset plan. And so the monies that they're giving are very focused monies as to how it can be spent, not just for the planning process that we're doing between now and the end of summer, but also for the next 3 years. They really allocate that the money should be spent next year on professional development, on things like that that will make a difference for our teachers and for our students to improve achievement.
Thank you.
So our middle school is being targeted, but you decided to have a plan K through 12, is that correct?
So there's really two plans. One is a district comprehensive plan that really is more of an overview. We determined when we met as a district team that a school climate survey would be beneficial for all of our families and all of our students. So we really wanted that information from everybody. The school comprehensive education plan is just for the middle school. So there'll be a district overall plan and a school comprehensive plan. The school comprehensive education plan is just that, comprehensive. So it'll be very much more in detail for the next 3 years. But we truly felt like it was beneficial at this time to do a school climate survey. I especially like the fact that it included our students, because I know I have a couple at home that have a lot to say, and I know the people here have a lot to say, and it's nice to hear their voices.
It's a real opportunity to gather as much information as possible, especially as we're looking long-term about what we want our graduates to look like. So while that, we knew, or at least I knew and felt all along, that some sort of survey would be required to find out, what does our community think about education here? What do they value? What do they want to see improve? What's missing? So why not utilize this process to gather that information? Especially since the data is point-in-time data, when those kids move forward. Trying to improve overall as a district through this process.
Yeah, it's easy to get the kids, they're in school, the survey, the trick is the parents.
Right.
We need to find a method.
We're going to get creative, hopefully.
Mr. Johnson, if I could just pop in for a second. 2 of the 4 groups of middle schoolers, 2 grades of the middle school, once we start this next year, will already be in high school. So it does really need to be a larger
Right.
group. It's important that we're addressing the needs of all of those kids.
So it gives us the opportunity to improve overall without losing sight of the fact that we're still at 95% graduation rate.
Yes.
Yeah, 95% graduation rate, which is very good.
Yeah, I did. Now, the subgroup that you showed us on the slide is obviously just a snippet. Do you know the number of total kids that are enrolled and then?
I don't have that number.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it back.
But a disaggregated group is 30. And you have 30 or more, and remember that's the way it was for a long time. If you had 30 students, they were considered a subgroup.
Okay.
And so if you had 30 students my height, right, just to use something innocuous, that would be a subgroup. Okay? And if we only had 15 this year, or last year, and we had 15 next year, the new rules are you combine them. You understand what I'm saying? So imagine you're a school that had 30 students that are Inuit, or less. I'm sorry, 15. Okay, you always had 15. They didn't do really well. They never got that. The state never gathered that data because it wasn't considered a group that they were looking at. So what they've done now is combine years. So you've got 15 in year 1, you've got 15 in year 2. That data comes into the mix.
I understand that. I was just curious what the overall percentage of students in middle school that actually took the test that could take.
We can get that.
Thank you.
We also have the second reading of the 2021 school calendar. Any comments on that?
I have a comment. I did indicate to you the last time we met that I would be adding some half-days for our elementary students, or pre-K through 4 students in June, and those are indicated by a dotted diagonal line on June 11th, 18th, and 25th. That is the only change to the calendar that was presented to you previously.
Any questions? Thank you.
Adopt the calendar.
Do you want it?
Yes.
Okay. We're okay with the wording, just to
Yeah.
adopt?
Yeah, so in
Okay.
past years, we've looked at first draft and then second draft and then made a motion to approve that calendar as it is, and so we can do that now.
Okay. With that in mind, if I could have a motion to at least bring this school calendar to the floor for discussion.
So,
Mr. Hawk, in a second. Mr. Jean. Any discussion?
just, I'm sure it's on here, the first day of school.
First day of school is for students is the 8th.
Okay, I'm just looking over here. Gotcha.
The 25th is that right? And that 25th is no kids usually, right, or kids there?
No kids for second grade. But students in elementary will have that.
On that 25th?
Any questions to accept the calendar? Nothing? Mr. Forster?
You know where I'm going, so I.
Spoken the bird.
Well, I wanna give you your opportunity.
Well,
And
I think everybody has known that, I look at it as, here we go. All right, so the BOSU students, are part of our district, they're part of our family. And I think that they, with this type of calendar, unfortunately, get the short end of the stick in regards to their vacation days, because they are here for half a day during the February break. Then they have to be here for half a day during the first part of the second break, or the 2-week break, but then they get 1 full week off. So it messes up with their schedules, and I always felt that was not fair for them. That's my personal opinion. There we go.
Well, I tend to agree with you, but I also appreciate the work that you've done on the calendar this year, Mr. Sticio, and we've got tried to minimize that impact, Mr. Forster, and that there are 7 days in there that are different, whereas it has been 2 full weeks in the past. 10 full days, so I realize nothing is perfect.
Right.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'll vote.
Thank you. The board has reserved this time to hear from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. Audience members seeking a response to complete a board correspondence sheet and return it to our district clerk, Christine Slagle. Is there anybody who would like to address the board on any item, not just pertaining to the agenda? Nothing? All these seniors, Mr. Paskey, you've got them all here and they're
Trying to get them to stand up.
Yeah?
I think they just want their paper signed and go home.
Thank you. The next regular Board of Education meeting will be held Tuesday, March 24th, and I'm sure that all these seniors will be back then, right here in the high school library. BOCES has their annual meeting Wednesday, April 1st at the BOCES Carrier Education Center in Angola at 7:30. if any board members would like to attend that, if you could let Ms. Slagle know by next Friday. As we mentioned earlier, letters received from Mr. Lowry and Mrs. Snares regarding the upcoming BOCES Board of Education election. Other than that, Mr. Zambrone, do you have anything you'd like to?
Yeah, I do. Actually, one moment, if I find it. I guess this is to Mrs. Troutman. Question here. I noticed that our, and I believe that she works in the middle school, our social worker will be out for maternity leave.
Yeah, she's actually a district social
Is that
worker.
okay? Which her office is in her place? And then I'll ask the superintendent. As a result of her being out from May to the end of the school year, I'm just wondering, will we be able to provide services to our students in terms of social work? Or is that just gonna be a void at this time, probably picked up by guidance counselors or whatever?
Well, you know, Cat Byer is, as you've heard me say before, is absolutely outstanding. So yes, there will be a void there, because of Cat's quality of work. Our counselors and our psychologists are gonna have to pitch in. We certainly can attempt to find a substitute social worker, for a short period of time, and I'm not opposed to doing that. And Mr. Rada and I can talk about, an external posting tomorrow, but I know it's going to be very difficult.
Okay, so we're gonna make an attempt to continue on with the services that have been provided by this lady, so. All right, thank you.
Just, I mean, services that provide that you would purchase their service from a group.
Something like that.
I'm just.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know.
Is that something else?
No, we have it in-house.
Oh,
Yeah, we
okay.
Yeah.
I can look into that as well.
Mr. Hawk, anything? Mr. Forster?
Yes, I actually do. This is going to be kind of like a public service announcement, more than a comment. Recently, this past weekend, I participated in a nice regional winter conference over the weekend. And one of the workshops I attended was information on the 2020 census. The census will begin to be received by residents, I believe, this week, as early as this week. The New York State Union of Teachers, which is NYSET, is highly encouraging everyone to not only fill out the census, but to encourage others to do so as well. Federal funding is determined by the census. There's $700 billion that's going to be determined by the census. During the last census in 2010, New York State had a 76% response rate. If there was an 85% response rate, the state would have received $9.1 billion more dollars in funding. And if it was a 95% rate, it would have received $18.8 billion more dollars in funding. So more locally, it has been determined that Western New York as a whole had an 85% response rate, and if that would have been up to 95%, then Western New York would have received an additional $764 million. Now, one thing that I asked, a question I asked when I went to this workshop was, if New York State is at 76%, let's say Fredonia goes 100%, does that affect us because New York State is at 76%? And the answer was no. If we do 100% at Fredonia, then we should be able to get the allotted funds that we would have gotten, for our municipality. So, just throwing that out there. So the local municipalities would get 100% of the allotted government funding if they have 100% participation. In addition to the funding, the census also determines the number of seats each state has in the U.S. House of Representatives. Currently, it's estimated that at least one congressional House seat will be lost in New York, and 3 increased in Texas. So it tells you where everybody is moving. So the census also defines congressional and state legislative districts, school districts, but not the school itself, the boundary of the district. Just want to throw that out there. Don't want anybody to get freak out about that. And voting precincts. So I bring this up to all of us today here with the hope that anyone here will spread the word about the census, that maybe the district could put some information regarding the census on the website or other social media outlets, and that the local media could maybe throw something out there too, stressing the importance of the census so that we can ensure that Fredonia is fully represented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forshore. He's getting shots. No? Mr. Johnson, you're good? Okay. Mr. Paskey, what's going on in high school?
I've got a lot, I apologize.
Do you?
Matthew Carrer is one of our 10th graders. He's been selected to go to space camp this year, and so as we close to the end of the year, I want to have him come in and talk to the board about what he's going to be doing. Then after he goes over the summer, to come in and really share his exploits with everybody. I'm really pleased and thankful to announce that Basil has decided to donate a car for our driver's education again this year, free of charge, obviously, and our relationship is just growing every year, and they're fantastic, so I appreciate that. Our Spectator school newspaper won the best school newspaper in the state for the second year in a row, which is pretty much unheard of. So just congratulations to them. They're planning on traveling. You voted tonight to allow them to go to get that award in Saratoga. I'm also happy to announce that our valedictorian this year is Alex Schrader, the son of Phil and Karen Schrader. And our salutatorian is Joseph Gullo III, the son of John and Michelle Gullo. So congratulations to them. Our rural schools chronic attendance meeting that we're going to be having in Pittsburgh is now going to end up being virtual. So we'll be doing that this coming week. Our plans are to select an initiative to try for the fall of 2020. And so we will be working on finding a location to do that virtually. We just had the art department canvas and cans activity that occurred in the cafeteria on Friday, where the art department invites people to come in, not entirely free of charge, but if you bring a can good, to donate, you can learn how to paint, and they did a beautiful scene with lighthouse and beach, and they taught people how to do that. So it was great for families in the community to come in and enjoy that time. We had 3 music concerts in the last 2 weeks, the all band, the all strings, and the all choral concerts, and those were all fantastic. Our boys varsity basketball team finished off their season at Buff State. They did a nice job this year. We had 3 students who attended states last week for track, Emily Brown, Oliver Madriaga, I always mess that up, and Hester Begat. They did a fantastic job at states. We have parent-teacher conferences this Thursday, a half day on Friday, and on Friday we're doing our new unified sports that you guys just put together. They're doing a dance-off competition. So we're taking the last few minutes of the day on our half day on Friday, and we're gonna have all the kids in the gym. We're gonna film this dance-off for this competition, and we're gonna send it out to whatever number of groups are doing this, and we think we're gonna nail this because I think the other groups had like 16 kids or something. We're gonna have our whole school do it. Because if you know, we all do line dancing in gym as part of our units. They're gonna be doing slap leather, it's called. So we're gonna be taking a few minutes to get that out. So we're excited about that. Last but not least, we have the musical carousel coming up on March 20, 21, 27, and 28. Thank you.
Nothing else?
No, I mean, slow week.
Coming back.
That just happened since noon.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let's see, I can't compete with that, but 2 weeks ago on Friday, we had our 7th and 8th grade formal dance. We had a ton of kids come out, it was a lot of fun. They actually danced this year. That was something new, because it's like their first big people dance, and so a lot of times they just stand and kind of look at each other, but they actually danced this time. It was pretty good. We had a great turnout. Parent-teacher conferences on Thursday, so we're preparing for that. We're quite excited. Friday, we have a half day, and I just want to kind of prop up our 7th grade team. They are doing an interdisciplinary unit, and they have kind of gone around trying to get donations because they are purchasing reusable bags. So if students bring in plastic bags, they'll be given a reusable bag. And so they're trying to do it as a team, and it's been really, really awesome to watch that group of teachers, 10 of them, work together and really, try to do some great things with our students. So I'm very proud of the work they're doing. So I think that's it.
Mr. Ballinger.
This week, Thursday, Student Learning is going to come to our school and do a little performance with their theater department. It'll be the first time we've gathered in the gyms of the school, and they're doing some kind of performance on the floor of the gym with the kids, so that should be kind of fun. We have our spring fling dance on Friday from 6:30 to 8:30, so it should be a good time. We have a DJ and the kids should be enjoying that. We have our book bracket March Madness tournament where the kids are voting for their favorite picture book, and we've just limited it down to the Elite 8, and that will be revealed tomorrow to the kids, and they're gonna vote for another week, and then we'll hopefully crown the book of the year, which would be kind of cool. And one of our first graders has just completed reading 1 million words last week, so we celebrated that, and she will continue monitoring her progress. It's cool.
That's great. Ms. Piper?
Well, I don't know already, many of you do, we finished Dr. Seuss Week last week at Wheelock, and it was a huge success. Many thanks to those of you that came and read with our students. We celebrated every day the different rhymes, the green eggs and ham, and many thanks to Donna Hill, our reading teacher at Wheelock, because she put this all together. We even had Patrick Swanson, our DA, come in and read, so it was just a great week. It was a lot of fun. We're still all kind of recovering from that. We are celebrating World Down Syndrome Day on March 13th. It is nationally March 21st, but that's a Saturday. So we wanted to be able to celebrate that during the school day, so we are celebrating that as a district on March 13th. And our kindergartners are getting ready for their annual art show and music performances on March 24th. If you are around Wheelock, come walk through our hallways and see the amazing artwork our students have done with Mrs. Appleby all over the hallways, and they'll be performing in the gym throughout the day for their parents and informants. So it'll be a great day.
Oh, I do, let me go.
Good, Mr. Forbes?
Good. Are you all talked out?
No,
No?
there will be no school for students on Friday, March 20th.
I think I heard that on my phone
Yes, you
yesterday.
did. Yes, you did.
That same voice.
There will be a district in-service day for all of our teachers. The agenda will be coming out probably this Friday. We're looking forward to having, capping off our in-service, really arc for this year on next week Friday. So looking forward to that. I do want to publicly thank Donna Hill and Amy Piper for arranging just this fantastic week on the Wheelock. Friday I was invited, got to wear my Dr. Seuss shirt. I got to read Green Eggs and Ham to a kindergarten class. It was absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much.
Ms. Farrell?
I can't come up with anything at
No.
all. I'm good.
Ms. Slagle?
I just want to reassure Mr. Forster that it is in the plans to do some social media outreach about the census, so I may connect with you for some of those figures you have.
Good.
You ready for me now? So before I say here, I do want to thank Mrs. Slagle. She's started to do something on social media recognizing some of our staff members, and she started with Cat Fire. That was on Facebook and Twitter and whatnot. And what are you calling it?
Fredonia Feature.
Fredonia Feature? Okay. Thank you for your efforts and helping to get some good publicity out there for us. So while you're all having fun and doing wonderful things, and I also read at Wheelock, and that was a blast, I've been learning a lot about the coronavirus. Right? But what I'm happy to say is we are business as usual in our district. There are no known reports in our county. I get updates from the State Education Department, Chicago County Department of Health, New York State Department of Health, and our partners at BOCES on pretty much a daily basis. And now plus a phone conference today with the Department of Health and our new county executive. I've asked our administrative team to continue to work with students about good hygiene, washing your hands, using good respiratory hygiene, which means don't sneeze on your friends, okay? And we're doing a nice job of that. Mr. Forbes and I met with Mr. Winchell today to review proper cleaning procedures. He's in turn going to work with our folks to make sure that these things are getting done. So we're doing everything that we can internally. I do want you to know, in terms of student travel, you did approve a trip for students for the newspaper to go to Saratoga. We are watching things across our state in terms of travel. At this point, it was on the agenda for you to approve, but I'm going to maintain the responsibility to make a decision should things change in that region of our state. Furthermore, we have students traveling to the Galapagos Islands during spring break, which sounds like the trip of a lifetime. We are monitoring Ecuador as well to determine whether that can continue on. And we met with Mrs. Hoover.
Yep.
And you attended the parent meeting and
Yes.
and shared that right now we're going forward, however that may change. I was also at a conference in Albany, probably about the same time as you. I was at a coronavirus while you were learning about the census. You drew the better straw. That's all I have.
That's all you have?
Yes, sir.
We anticipate the need to enter into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. We're gonna move into executive session after a motion and a vote, but essentially our meeting is over with. We will come out of executive session just to adjourn the regular meeting. So if I could have a motion to enter into executive session. Ms. Gagenstops, and a second.
One second.
Mr. Forrester, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are now in executive session. Thank you for attending.